Okay, so I hope this side of the board makes sense. Now we're going to move on to another scenario. The key about this scenario is we're not going to talk about a phagocyte eating something and just presenting it. This time we're going to talk about a cell that's infected. So let's just use a typical cell on your finger, some epithelial cell. Okay, so this is a cell on your finger. Don't get freaked out about that circle, it's just the nucleus. Okay. Now we're going to say that this cell is infected with a virus. So let's look at our two options of MHCs that we can do. Remember, we're not looking at CD4s or CD8s because CDs are only found on T cells, and we're not talking about a T cell, we're just talking about a cell, any cell that does a marker. So our two options are MHC class 1 and MHC class 2. My first question I'm looking at is, why is the cell presenting it? Well, the cell is going to present an epitope from this virus because it wants help. It's infected. So which one is in response to an infected cell? That's MHC class 1. I can further confirm that MHC class 1 is the correct one because I said this was an epithelial cell, just a cell in my finger. Remember, MHC class 2 can only be done by B cells and phagocytes. So the one I'm going to pick here is MHC class 1. Number 1, because any cell can do MHC class 1 as long as it's infected. So that's number 2, it being infected. So MHC class 1 is going to be done by this cell. Now remember, on MHC, it takes an epitope or a piece of what it ate or what it is infected with, and it presents that. So in this case, it took the epitope of what it phagocytized. Over here, it's taking the epitope of what is infecting the actual cell. So it's going to be MHC class 1. Now the question is, why did he do that MHC class 1? What's going to come in response to it? So remember, MHC class 1 always attaches to CD8. And where are CD8 receptors found? On cytotoxic T cells. So in response to the MHC class 1, a cytotoxic T cell is going to come with its CD8 positive receptor. Now why are they talking? This cell is pretty much saying, hey, I'm doing MHC class 1 because I'm infected with the virus, you need to come kill me. The cytotoxic T cell comes, recognizes that epitope with his CD8 receptor on the MHC class 1, and he says, okay, yep, you're infected with the virus. And now you're thinking, okay, we've seen this before, it's going to release cytokines, right? No. Cytotoxic T cells do not release cytokines. They release something else directly to the cell called perforin. Perforin is not like cytokines at all. Cytokines are saying, hey, B cells come and macrophages keep eating. Perforins are saying, hey, I'm killing you. Perforins go inside the cell that's infected and they punch holes in the plasma membrane and cause the cell to lyse. Like, okay, well that kind of sucks for this cell, but that's actually a really good thing. Whenever I draw the pictures, I show one virus coming in and one virus coming out. But in all honesty, usually one virus comes in and thousands can come out. And remember, this cell is helping this virus divide. So the cytotoxic T cell comes and kills the cell so that the virus can't divide it anymore and it stops the virus right in its tracks. Now you're like, okay, well I want to make antibodies, right? So with the cytotoxic T cell, remember it has a CD8, but this is where we run into a problem. What kind of cells make antibodies? B cells. B cells have MHC class 2. Remember on my board, I keep coming back to this, but MHC class 2 is on B cells and phagocytes. Okay? If a B cell has MHC class 2, a cytotoxic T cell has a CD8, do 8 and 2 attach? No. 8 only attaches to MHC class 1. MHC class 2 only attaches to CD4. So cytotoxic T cells never talk to B cells. They can't. They don't have the right receptors to do so. So in this response, notice we never branch into humoral. We're stuck in cell-mediated. So you only hit cell-mediated, no humoral. Again, this is going to be the third line of defense. Down here, it could be anything. Remember I said this could be a cell in my finger? This could be a helper T cell doing MHC class 1. Remember HIV infects helper T cells, so it could be a helper T cell. The only time a cytotoxic T cell can talk to a B cell is if the B cell is infected. Put the B cell right here. If the B cell is infected with the virus, it can do MHC class 1 and then it can talk to a cytotoxic T cell. But don't think the cytotoxic T cell is saying, hey, B cell, make antibodies. The cytotoxic T cell is going to kill the B cell. So the only time cytotoxic T cells talk to B cells are when they're going to kill it because the B cell is infected. B cells usually do MHC class 2. But if B cells are infected, they can do MHC class 1. Now, if he ever brings up macrophage, a lot of people tend to go right here, and they think they're going to draw this picture. Because you always start with the phagocyte in this picture, right? But the key is, if he says that the phagocyte is infected, you're actually going to draw this picture. Because remember, a phagocyte, it does MHC class 2 after it eats something. It can also do MHC class 1 if it's infected with something. So I hope you're realizing that any cell can do MHC class 1 as long as it's infected. MHC class 2 is only on B cells and phagocytes. So if you think about it, B cells and phagocytes are the only cells in your body that can do MHC class 1 and MHC class 2. But they only do MHC class 1 if they're infected. I can't say it enough. MHC class 2 attaches to CD4. MHC class 1 attaches to CD8. That's why helper T cells are the bridge between cell-mediated and humoral, whereas cytotoxic T cells, they're not the bridge because they can't even talk to humoral. Okay, so the key is when you're trying to figure out what picture to draw, you need to think, what kind of cell is he talking about? And then you have to think, is the cell infected or did he just eat something? And that's how you're going to decide which picture to go on from here. Now, a couple more key points that I want to bring out is which picture works best for bacteria and which picture works best for viruses. If you think about antibodies, okay, antibodies are in humoral, right? Humoral is characterized by B cells and antibodies. Now, do antibodies work against intracellular pathogens or extracellular pathogens? That's another way of saying, do they work against diseases that go inside of your cells, or do they work against diseases that go outside of your cells? Well, think about where the antibodies go. Do the antibodies go inside of your cells and attach to something? No, they only attach to things outside of your cells. And which ones outside of your cells? Bacteria or viruses? Viruses are the ones that are inside of your cells. Bacteria are extracellular. I hope that made sense. So, when we talk about... I'm going to erase part of this real fast. So remember, we have cell-mediated and humoral. Okay, Preston, maybe we should stop it here and then... No, cell-mediated and humoral. Humoral is B cells and antibodies. Antibodies attack things that are outside of your cells. So we say humoral is for extracellular pathogens. And which pathogens are usually extracellular? Bacteria. Bacteria, for the most part, don't enter your cells. Cell-mediated, we say, is better against intracellular pathogens. And what is the most common intracellular pathogen? Those are viruses. You can see this here, right? Macrophages usually eat things that are outside of your cells. The macrophages don't enter your cells and eat viruses inside. They eat the bacteria floating around outside of your cells. So, and you can see this picture ends at the B cells, which is humoral. So humoral is best for extracellular bacteria. Whereas over here, a cytotoxic T cell, which is in cell-mediated, it comes in response to intracellular virus.